Caroline Louise Crouch was born on July 21, 2001, in Athens, Greece. She is the daughter of Susan Della Cuesta, a Filipino mother, and David Crouch, an English father who is a retired executive in the oil and gas company. Although Caroline was born in Greece, she is registered as a British citizen. In 2003, her family moved to Alonissos Island. Alonissos is an island in the Aegean Sea, part of the Northern Sporades archipelago in Greece. This island is renowned for its unspoiled natural beauty, including the Alonissos Marine Park, which protects the Mediterranean monk seal and various other marine species. Alonissos also features charming traditional villages characterized by Greek architecture. Caroline was raised on this beautiful little island surrounded by friends and family. Everyone who knew her described Caroline as a cheerful and lively person, and she was certainly known for her stunning beauty, complemented by her radiant smile. Caroline had a variety of interests, such as diving and swimming. She even held a black belt in kickboxing. She was quite popular in her small community in Alonissos, with numerous friends and a warm personality that endeared her to the local seniors. During the spring of 2017, at the young age of 15 and still in high school, Caroline attended a candle parade to commemorate Good Friday, where she met a handsome man who was vacationing on the small island. He is Babis Anagnostopoulos, a 29-year-old Greek man, working as a commercial helicopter pilot. Despite the significant age difference, with Babis nearly twice her age, Caroline fell in love with him and accepted his invitation for a date. Caroline's parents had no objections to this age gap. In fact, they happily welcomed Babis as a potential son-in-law. After 17 months dating, and right after Caroline completed her high school education, Babis proposed to her. At such a young age, Caroline still had many opportunities ahead of her. But in the name of love, at just 18 years old, she agreed to spend the rest of her life with her beloved pilot. Caroline's family supported and rejoiced in her decision. Her mother believed that as long as Caroline was happy with her choice, they would provide their full backing. Caroline and Babis held a romantic wedding ceremony that was distinct from traditional Greek weddings, which was what the couple desired, and both families gladly agreed to it. After their marriage, the newlywed couple moved to Glyka Nera in Athens, where they became neighbors with a woman named Lila, who later became a close friend of Caroline's. Not long after getting married, Caroline became pregnant with their first child. But unfortunately, she experienced a miscarriage which left the couple heartbroken. Caroline and Babis underwent therapy for 3 months to help them cope with their grief. While Babis was able to occupy himself with work, Caroline, left alone at home, struggled to find activities that could distract her. Eventually, she poured her feelings into the pages of her diary. In one entry, Caroline wrote, "My love for him is greater than anything else in this world. I am deeply influenced by my hormones, and Babis should know about this, but I am too embarrassed to tell him. I know he would support me, but I can't bring myself to say it. However, I will try for my baby." A few months later, Caroline successfully became pregnant again, and in 2020, she gave birth to a beautiful daughter whom they named Lydia. Even as a young mother, Caroline never neglected her education. She enrolled in classes at the University of Piraeus in Attica, not far from Athens. It seemed everything was going perfectly in Caroline's life. She often shared her happy moments on social media, posting photos of her little family trips, romantic moments with her husband, and adorable times with her baby. However, unfortunately, her seemingly perfect life did not last long, because in the middle of 2021, tragedy struck Caroline's life. On May 11, 2021, at approximately 6:12 a.m., emergency services in Athens received a frantic phone call from a man whose voice was barely audible. He sounded weak and panicked, continuously shouting for help. The caller was Babis Anagnostopoulos, who informed the emergency operator that a brutal robbery had just taken place at his home in Glyka Nera. Meanwhile, around 4:20 a.m. about 2 hours prior, Lila, a friend and neighbor of Caroline, woke up due to the noisy sounds coming from Roxy, the family dog. It was unusual for Roxy to be barking at that hour. Normally calm, Roxy sounded agitated and appeared to be crying. Just a few seconds later, Lila noticed that the dog seemed to calm down and fell silent. Lila went back to sleep, but was awakened again about 2 hours later when her phone rang. It was a call from Babis, Caroline's husband. As soon as she answered the phone, Lila immediately heard Babis's frantic cries for help. Although she couldn't comprehend what was happening, it was clear that something was wrong at her neighbor's house. Lila quickly woke her husband and they rushed to the neighbor's house. When they opened the front door, they could already hear the distant sounds of police and ambulance sirens approaching. Lila and her husband followed the police and paramedics, who had arrived first at Babis's house, where they were confronted with a shocking scene that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. They discovered Caroline's lifeless body lying on the bed. Next to Caroline's body, they found her 11-month-old baby, Lydia, crying and pushing against her mother's body with her tiny hands, as if trying to awaken Caroline, perhaps out of hunger. Meanwhile, Babis was found sitting on the bedroom floor, crying hysterically. During the thorough examination of the crime scene, the police discovered that the entire house was in a state of extreme disarray. Cabinet doors were wide open with their contents strewn across the floor, and drawers had been rummaged through. It was abundantly clear that a burglary had taken place, or rather that a robbery had occurred in this family's home. One particularly distressing sight was Roxy, Caroline's husky dog, found hanging from the stair railing, lifeless. Caroline's body was subsequently transported to the hospital for an autopsy, while Babis was taken to the police station for interrogation, as he was the only eyewitness who could shed light on what had truly happened to Caroline and their home. According to Babis, they were suddenly attacked around 4:30 a.m. by 3 armed men who broke into their house through the basement window. These 3 intruders were unexpectedly in their bedroom. 2 of them quickly tied his hands and gagged him while the third aimed a gun at Caroline. The robbers coerced Babis into revealing the location of their cash reserves, which Babis claimed was substantial, amounting to €10,000. For context, during this period, Greece was facing a financial and banking crisis, which led many citizens to feel safer keeping their money at home in cash rather than in banks. Initially, Babis denied having any cash stored in the house. But under the threat of harm to his wife and child, he reluctantly complied and showed them where the money was kept. However, Caroline could not accept the robbers' attempt to seize their money. As mentioned earlier in the video, Caroline was skilled in kickboxing and held a black belt. Furious and defiant, she attempted to confront the 3 armed men. Yet, despite her prowess, she was ultimately subdued and one of the robbers strangled her to death. One of the robbers then struck Babis on the head, rendering him unconscious. And when he regained consciousness, he found his wife dead on their bed and immediately contacted emergency services, as well as their neighbor, Lila. Babis also noted that 2 of the 3 assailants were communicating in a foreign language during the attack. The police subsequently played several recordings of conversations in a foreign language, which turned out to be Albanian. The case of the robbery and murder of this British citizen in Athens quickly sparked public outrage, particularly because the perpetrators were foreigners. In the months leading up to the tragic robbery and murder of Caroline, the police had been preoccupied with a surge in robberies targeting the residents of Athens, believed to be perpetrated by immigrants. In this instance, it was suspected that the 3 assailants were Albanians. During a press conference, the Athens police made an initial statement, categorizing the incident as a case of robbery and murder carried out by a group of gangsters from Georgia and Albania, who were also suspected of being involved in 12 other robbery and murder cases toward women in Athens. 5 days after Caroline's death, the police apprehended a Georgian man who was attempting to cross the border using a counterfeit passport. This person was a member of the Georgian-Albanian gang, and he was using a Bulgarian passport. His physical characteristics matched the description provided by Babis. But however, after further investigation, it was determined that this man was not involved in Caroline's robbery and murder. As the police intensified their investigation, Babis consistently made public appearances and was highly cooperative with reporters seeking updates on the case. Despite being a man who had just lost his wife in such a tragic way, he appeared remarkably composed, even too calm. Babis urged the media and the public to assist in locating the individuals responsible for his wife's murder. At that time, the Greek police had also offered a reward of €300,000 for anyone who could provide valuable information related to the case. Caroline's body was subsequently taken to the island of Alonissos for burial, where a period of mourning was observed for over a month. On June 17, 2021, the 37th day following Caroline's death, family and friends held a memorial ceremony in her honor. Babis's presence at the ceremony while cradling Lydia, his daughter with Caroline, deeply touched everyone in attendance and evoked a strong sense of sympathy. However, just as the event was about to conclude, a helicopter arrived on the island, and 2 police officers approached Caroline's family, informing them that they had apprehended the suspects and they need Babis back to Athens to identify the perpetrators. Before Babis went with the 2 officers, he approached Susan, Caroline's mother, and they spoke for about 5 minutes, before holding and saying goodbye. It was, in fact, a poignant moment during Caroline's memorial. Unbeknownst to him, the police had misled everyone about the suspects being in custody. When they arrived at the Athens police station, Babis was taken aback when the officers informed him that there were no suspects to identify. In an unexpected turn of events, Babis Anagnostopoulos was arrested and named as the sole suspect in the murder of his wife, Caroline. As previously mentioned, the police initially linked Caroline's case to 12 other robbery and murder cases involving women in Athens that had occurred since the beginning of 2021. In addition to the robbery motive, authorities suspected that the crime had a femicide motive, specifically a murder rooted in hatred toward women. The police had also detained a Georgian national suspected of being one of the robbers and murderers of Caroline. However, it turned out that this man had no connection to the case, and he was subsequently released. For days, law enforcement officials conducted investigations to apprehend the perpetrators, and even offered a reward of €300,000 for anyone who could provide valuable leads. Yet, the police investigation hit a significant dead end. At one point, the detectives began to realize that they might have been pursuing the wrong targets, conducting their investigation in the wrong direction, and that the actual perpetrator they were seeking had arguably been right in front of them all along. Simultaneously, the police received the results of forensic tests and the autopsy, which gradually began to reveal the dark veil shrouding this case. First, at the crime scene, aside from the fingerprints and DNA of Babis, Caroline, and Lydia, forensic officers found no foreign fingerprints or DNA whatsoever. Additionally, at the basement window, there were no signs of forced entry or tampering from the outside. The second clue came during the examination of the crime scene, where the police discovered that the CCTV camera installed in Babis's home had been damaged by the perpetrator, and the memory card was missing. Detectives had previously seized Babis's phone, which it turned out was connected to the CCTV camera through an application. Upon investigation, they found that the connection between the application and the CCTV camera was severed at 1:20 a.m., indicating that Babis had lied by claiming the intruders entered their home at 4:30 a.m. Furthermore, based on the examination of Babis's phone, it was found that during the time frame between 4 a.m. and when he called emergency services at 6:12 a.m., Babis's phone signal was tracked moving to several points within his house, despite his claim that he was bound and unconscious during this period. Babis's deception was corroborated by CCTV footage obtained from the home of a neighbor, which captured him at 4:05 a.m. in his backyard while cradling Lydia, his daughter. In addition to examining Babis's phone, the police also scrutinized Caroline's phone, which was connected to a smartwatch worn on her wrist. The smartwatch indicated that Caroline's heart rate stopped at 4:05 a.m., meaning she had already died approximately 30 minutes before the robbers were said to have broken into the house, as Babis had described. Caroline's internet search history also revealed that in the days leading up to her death, she had been intensively searching for rental property listings. The final clue that the police uncovered came from Caroline's diary. At this point, the police had successfully gathered substantial evidences that could place Babis as the main suspect, but they still could not determine the motive behind this crime. As previously mentioned, Caroline had started keeping a diary after experiencing a miscarriage in her first pregnancy. The entries in her diary indicated that she intended to leave Babis for reasons unknown. On one of the pages, Caroline wrote, "I had another argument with Babis, and this time it was bigger. I hit him, I cursed him, and he smashed the door. All I wanted was for him to ask how I felt when I woke up feeling weak and exhausted. I considered leaving this house and going to my sister's. I don't know if I can continue being with Babis. I love him so much that I can't leave him even though I know this relationship is dangerous for me." On another page, she wrote, "Today, my little one is 1 month old, and today is the day I told Babis I want to leave home. When he went to get our baby's documents from the hospital, I started looking for a house. I found what I wanted, a house in the northern suburbs of Athens. When Babis came back from the hospital, I told him, and he asked if I wanted to split up." The sentences written by Caroline indicated that Babis did not engage in domestic violence against her, but rather showed that they had a volatile relationship with arguments. However, the question remained, despite claiming to love him so deeply, why did Caroline so desperately want to leave Babis? Once again, while all evidence pointed towards Babis, the police needed more time to uncover the motive behind the murder and to understand the reasons that led Caroline to seek a divorce. Upon further investigation, the police uncovered information that made the case all the more complex. They found several clues, revealing that in addition to being a helicopter pilot, Babis also engaged in another profession, being a drug courier. Using his helicopter, he did not just transport passengers, he also smuggled illicit goods. The revelation of Babis's hidden occupation aligned perfectly with his previously lavish lifestyle. Though he worked as a helicopter pilot, Babis lived exceedingly well. For instance, before marrying Caroline, he had already purchased 2 large, expensive houses. After their marriage, Babis frequently took Caroline on overseas vacations, visiting countries like Dubai, Japan, and various countries in Europe and Asia. Given his income as a helicopter pilot, it seemed implausible for Babis to cover such extravagant expenditures. Back in the interrogation room, Babis initially denied the police's allegations, but after intense questioning, he ultimately confessed to killing his wife. Babis claimed that on the night of the incident, they had a fight, because Caroline wanted to leave him. In a moment of instinct as a father, he became enraged when he saw Caroline mistreating Lydia. He admitted that his anger clouded his judgment as he sought to protect his daughter. Aware that Caroline held a black belt in kickboxing, he recognized that a one-on-one confrontation might not end favorably for him. So, Babis decided to attack Caroline while she was asleep. Babis confessed to killing Caroline, but denied that it was premeditated murder. At the same time, he attempted to tarnish Caroline's reputation by labeling her as a bad mother. Yet, once again, Caroline's diary revealed that Babis was the true monster in this story. On June 18, 2021, Babis was officially charged with 2 counts of serious crimes and 2 misdemeanors, murder, animal cruelty, and making false reports and testimonies. On May 16, 2022, the juries unanimously found Babis Anagnostopoulos guilty of all charges. The judge subsequently sentenced him to life imprisonment. He received an additional sentence of 10 years for killing Caroline's dog, along with an 11-year and 6-month sentence for filing false reports and providing misleading information to authorities. Babis Anagnostopoulos appealed the verdict, but on September 29, 2023, his appeal was denied, and the previous court's decision was upheld. In other words, Babis Anagnostopoulos would remain incarcerated for life. Following the verdict against Babis, both families battled for custody rights over Lydia, Caroline's daughter. Ultimately, David and Susan, Caroline's parents, won custody of Lydia. They decided to move to Manila, Philippines, where Lydia was raised alongside her aunt's children. So that's our crime story for today. See you again in the next video with Miss MetaMorra.